Hi, my name is Noah McDivitt. I'm part of the graduating class of 2021 from Sierra High School, and my senior project this year was rebuilding the top end of my 2005 Honda CRF 450R. To start off with my project, I started by removing all the plastics, which is a challenge in itself due to the amount of bolts that hold it together. All the plastics are like this fender right here, and I also had to take off the gas tank, which is a challenge in itself because the seat needed to be removed and all of this framework right here needed to come off from these two bolts as well. So after removing the plastics, the next step was to come down here to the exhaust pipe. It's held on by two bolts. One is up here, then the other one is right below it. The next step was to remove the radiator as well as this hose and the water pump right here. Coming to the other side of the bike, the seat needed to come off, and the subframe, which is held on right here, has 4 bolts, 2 right here and then 2 in a lower place. The air filter box had to be removed, as well as the carburetor, which sits right in here. The carburetor's job is to deliver gas into the motor. The air filter was removed from right here. This whole section came out. After removing the air filter and the carburetor, come around to the other side of the bike to get the engine retimed. All that means is that the piston will be sitting at the top of the piston cylinder. In order to do that, we take this cover right here, it comes off, and there are 2 hash marks that align with a hash mark that is on a gear inside here. Once that is aligned, then the piston is at top dead center and the bike is ready to work on. After the bike was timed, the next step was to remove the timing chain and the camshaft. The timing chain spans from the very top of the motor all the way to the bottom. There's one gear right in here and another gear down here. And what that does is just rotate up and down, and it's basically what makes the bike run. The camshaft is located right about here. Its purpose is to open and close the valves. There are 4 valves in the motor. There are 2 intake and 2 exhausts. The 2 intake valves will open up and the bike will receive gas and air. And then the camshaft will rotate again and the intake valves will close while the exhaust valves open, releasing all the compressed air through the exhaust pipe and out the back. After removing the timing chain and the camshaft, the next step was to remove the valves. Once the valves were removed, it allowed me to take off the entire top end of the bike pretty easily. After the head was removed, the hardest challenge came, which was ordering new parts and waiting for the shipping to come in. Once that happened, it was pretty easy from there. All I had to do was put the new head back on, and after that, a new challenge arose, which was putting in the new valves and adjusting them. This is so difficult because the valves are held on by a spring, and this spring has to be compressed in order for the valves to fit on, and there's a special tool made for that, which is really hard to come by. Once the valves were back on, the new cam could be placed on top of them. Once the cam was put back on and bolted into place, the next step was putting back on the timing chain. This was a challenge in itself because the timing chain kept falling into the bottom end of the motor, and in order to get it back up and out, I had to use a magnet. This magnet was not strong enough, and so I resorted to using pliers to reach down in and pull it back up. Once the timing chain was back in place, I was finally able to piece back together the bike. Starting with the valve cover that's right here. Above this black line, and it is bolted on and through onto the head. This piece is very important because it keeps the valves and the cam and the timing chain all protected and covered. Once this was back on, I was finally able to put the carburetor and the air filter back in. Once these were finished, next came the exhaust pipe, which was difficult because of the positioning it is in. After that, the radiator had to go back on, as well as the hose and the water pump. Once the water pump was put back into place, I was finally able to put the gas tank and all the plastics back on, as well as the seat. So now I will demonstrate starting it for you. As you can see, the bike runs. It was a long journey, but I am finally able to ride it again. One of the major challenges that I faced while doing the senior project was actually choosing a project to do. My first project was building a gate at my grandma's house, but it turns out that we needed to get a bunch of permits and multiple heavy equipment machines to do that. My next project that I was going to choose was going to be building a dirt bike track at my dad's house. The reason this one didn't fall through is because the house was later sold, and so I was not able to complete it. So then I chose rebuilding the top end of my dirt bike, which I was successfully able to do. My mentor was Daniel Goodman. The reason I chose him is because he has been working on dirt bikes for 30 plus years and is highly experienced. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.